This is a Radio PA news update. Commonwealth.
Yemen's government resigns. Why?
Broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios at Santander Stadium. This is York's local sports show, talking local sports on York's local sports station. Welcome to Game Day with GameTimePA on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
And welcome everyone to another edition of Game Day with GameTimePA. I'm Steve Navaroli alongside Matt Gould and Teddy Feinberg, and apologize for the delay, a little bit of computer issues here at the house, but those things will happen because they happen in my house all the time, right, Matt?
Well, I was late getting here anyway, so it was appropriate.
So yes, yeah, exactly. And I wasn't. It's funny you say that. I spent all of my morning and most of my afternoon home with a sick daughter, so I was late too. It wasn't bad, nothing bad, just a little fever and that. So I got some daddy-daughter time that was unexpected, but in some ways kind of cool as well. So
you'll take it where you can get it. I just want to make sure my mic is on fire. Oh, we're good. We're rolling,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah, you're on fire, Ted. Don't you worry about that. So
I appreciate it.
Let's get into it. We got three of us in the house, and game ball, Matt Gould.
Game ball. Oh, I'll give a game ball to York Catholic's Marissa Wrestler. It's kind of like we haven't had many games this week with the snow delays, postponing things yesterday. But thinking back, I saw a wrestler actually in York Catholic the last two Saturdays. 2 Saturdays ago, she had a double-double against Berks Catholic, one of the better District 3 AAA girls teams. And then last Saturday, the York Catholic Fighting Irish pulled out a 1-point come-from-behind win against Dallastown. And who had a double-double again? Why, Marissa Wrestler, that wing player, senior for the Irish, had about 17 points. I want to say 11 rebounds, which is pretty amazing for a 5'8" player. So hats off to her. I think she's really kind of been the one key component that has made them go this season, if I could pick one out. And so she get my game ball this week.
That's a good choice, especially when you count the reboundings, because no team can have enough rebounding. There's no question about that. Now that gives them another one. Once again, hot at the right time.
It was funny talking to Dallastown coach Mary Manlove after that game. She kind of looked at my stat sheet, and we looked, and it was all their production was from Japria Carroll, Marissa Wrestler, and Hannah Laszlo. Yeah. And she was like, she said, quote, they killed us. So, yeah. I mean, those three have been coming up quite strong for York Catholic, as they are sitting on a 9-time straight district champs in AA.
Just what they need, more depth, more people performing. Teddy, what you got for us, buddy?
I'm going team award here. I'm actually going to go Kennerdale Wrestling. They clinched a share of the division crown. It's actually the first time in their program history they've accomplished such a feat. Obviously, I'm pulling for the Rams. I'm glad they did well. So I'm going team game ball, the Kennerdale Rams wrestling team.
After they lose the greatest athlete probably in Kennerdale, or
no question,
greatest wrestler in York County history.
And probably the history of Pennsylvania, and Chance graduates, and the residual effect is you win a team title. That is amazing stuff. Congrats to Coach Mike Baliseri for that.
Well, I was talking to Coach Mike Balestrini last year
sorry.
about that, and he mentioned the one big thing about having Chance Marcel around was the interest he was bringing into the program. The youth program was really starting to fill up. More kids were getting interested in wrestling, and I think you're starting to see that. I mean, they had some key wrestlers coming back this season, but I get the sense that they're building something at Kennerdale, and what they were doing with getting that interest in the program is basically where you have to start.
Good for them. Now, my game ball is going to Emma Saxton, sophomore at Central York basketball, and what an incredible shutdown defensive performance in Central's big win at Redline. Courtney Dimoff is a fantastic basketball player. Great shooter, good penetrator. She can do a lot to help a team.
Great instincts, too.
And her instincts are incredible. She's a coach's kid. She's exactly what we would expect. Well, Saxon held Courtney to no points. And now, let's be fair, a couple of the parents told me Courtney wasn't feeling well in that, but still, you hold a player that dynamic. And the Central team held Redline to 18 points for that game. It was unbelievable, and I think that's something we want to talk about in the girls basketball segment as well, because it was really something to see, and something I'll talk more on there. So, athletes of the week locally. Female athlete of the week, Jordan Kloster, Northeastern basketball. She had a big game, 26 points, 12 rebounds, and win over York Suburban, a team that beat them by 10 the first time. So I think congrats for that. And, hey, my game ball from last week ended up getting athlete of the week. Jeff Reynolds, another Bobcat, Comes off the bench. He drained 3 threes in their win over Central, and then a few days later, Coach John Eister points him out for his defensive effort as they beat Eastern 44-38. So congrats, Jeff Reynolds. 40% of the vote for a bench kid. That's pretty good.
I was talking to Eister a couple nights ago, and we brought up Reynolds, and he even said he thought how fitting it was that Jeff got the Athlete of the Week because of what he's been doing coming off their bench. One of those selfless kids. It's kind of been
Absolutely.
And I even asked him if volleyball had any impact on his game, because he tried out for volleyball last season. Of course, helped them to a state title.
Yeah.
And he said, not really. He said the one difference is, a lot of these kids, whether it be volleyball players, they work on volleyball year round. And Jeff adjusted great to it. Whether it's basketball or anything else, that time away from the sport, you're working on your game, your training and stuff like that. Jeff didn't have as much time to work on his basketball game and train, but he told me his work ethic while he was working on it was phenomenal.
Well, it sure hasn't hurt his shooting touch, that's for sure. Teddy, you got some regional athletes of the week for us.
I do just want to say I love the reserve coming off the bench getting athlete of the week.
That's cool. That is really cool.
Regionally, we have Michael McGee of Finette Metal boys basketball. He averaged 36 points per game over a 4-game stretch. That sounds pretty astounding.
That's a lot of points.
He dropped 147 total. Who does that?
Yeah.
He also had a 45-point game against Forbes Road. He's averaging 25 points per game for the year, so that's our regional boys athlete. From a girls' standpoint, Zoe Zerman, Northern Lebanon girls basketball. She averaged 23.5 points per game over a 2-game stretch, and she led the Vikings to an upset of Lancaster Catholic, and then dropped 27 points on Columbia. So those are our regional athletes of the week here in mid-January.
And thanks for that, Teddy. And folks, the Game Time Athletes of the Week can be found on our York blog /varsity. You can vote. Voting goes up until 5 p.m. Monday evenings, and that usually the nominations go up. Teddy, when you been putting the nominations up, so people know?
They go up Sunday at 6 a.m. So if you're up Sunday at 6 a.m., you can go right to your computer and vote. I know there's a lot of people that are so eager to vote on it, th're actually setting their alarms for that.
Get in your votes before your prayers. For sure.
Yes, because we know you're up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday, that's for sure. So we're going to have a little different show this week. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about what was a recent happening here in York, and something we'll have some perspective on. And then later in the show, we've actually moved up the Uncle Steve segment for the next few weeks, because I've got swim meets I'll be heading to each of those nights, or meets or competitions. So I'll be doing part-time basis next few weeks, but Teddy and Matt will have you covered. We'll come back after this. You're listening to Game Day with Game Time PA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
January and February are Caribbean months at Fender's Grill and Pub, located at the Wyndham Garden, York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall. Featuring chefs' Caribbean specialties and Caribbean drinks, plus Fender's regular menu. Visit Fender's to beat the winter blues and sign up for a chance to win a beach vacation. Register during January and February. The winner will be drawn on March 1st. Fender's is open daily for breakfast and dinner, for private parties, and we have live entertainment Friday nights. Fender's Grill and Pub, 2000 Louts Road in York. Come visit us today.
Looking for something cool to do this weekend? Looking for a different kind of family fun? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Get on the ice with your friends for Rock and Skate, the last Friday of each month. Every Wednesday is family night with free skate rentals for the whole family. And remember, the coolest place in town is also available for the coolest birthday party in town. For party package prices and public skating times, check out YorkSkate.com. Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork. And skating rental is included. Or get on the ice for York Ice Arena hockey programs. Taught by Ice Arena coaches, boys and girls can learn proper techniques for the game. Rental equipment is available. Group skating lessons and beginner hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to yorkskate.com.
The puck drops here.
Wellman, the shot, score!
Sports Radio 1350, your home for Hershey Bears hockey.
Casey Wellman has won it in overtime for Hershey!
And the Washington Capitals.
Hearing a shot, they score!
Defending the Den and rocking the red all season. Catch the Bears and the Caps on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Putting a winning team on the field starts with a good manager. Murray Securis believes the same is true when it comes to all-star health benefits. And Murray Securis Choice Benefits Marketplace just made managing that call a whole lot easier. Employers can now offer a comprehensive benefits program that controls costs and gives employees the education and resources to be active in managing their health care. Designed for employer groups of 20 or more, Choice Benefits Marketplace gives your employees the power of choice and simplifies benefits administration for employers. Contact Murray Securis or go to choicebenefitsmarketplace.com.
Hi, I'm Susquehanna girls basketball coach Dave Schreiner. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
And we're back on Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK and on GameTimePA.com/GameDay, where you got a chance to check us out live stream. Even see Matt's pretty face right there on the camera, and Teddy's in the background. So that's how we operate. Small booth, small show, but we go forward, don't
It's usually my pretty ear because I'm usually looking at you. So
That's
it's
true.
The side of my
That's
face.
that's
Incredible
true.
shot of Matt's ear.
Yeah, well, you know,
He's got a great ear.
They are
That's
big.
a great ear, and you know his listening
Big
skills. So, folks, one of the things that I think has been brought up because it really hammered our Game Time PA Facebook page, and that was an incident that happened at a place that I spent a lot of time at, the York Ice Arena. And there was a big tournament over the weekend. In fact, our teams, the in-house teams, we all played away. So I was not in the arena this weekend. I had no idea.
Well, I mean, you're a head coach, obviously.
Right, yeah, as a head coach. Now, I had no idea that this even took place until this afternoon when it basically, exploded via social media. And I'm not even sure. It was apparent there was a scuffle going on the ice. And before I even go on there, because a lot of the comments I resent, and I'm going to tell you why. Well, it's hockey, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? When you're talking youth hockey, number one, my son plays at the 11 and 12-year-old level. Checking is not allowed at that level. There is contact, certainly, kids going for pucks, they bump together and that, but checking is not allowed. This is not a rugged, sport at the youth level. So let's take that out of the equation. Let's not say, oh, it's just hockey that happens, because in the younger levels it doesn't. Now, I had seen on comments, and again, I wasn't there, I don't know firsthand, that it actually happened during a U14 girls tournament, and one of the girls was on the ice, vulnerable, and I guess she was kicking at, supposedly, but the gist of it is, one of the parents then came over and it went from being he punched on the glass, but if you look at the video, somebody else shot a video,
which of course is on YDR.
Right. And the thing that is, number one, you got to watch your step in every way, shape, or form, because there's a video camera in everybody's pocket.
No question.
Number one, and this is how these things get out there, and this is how they get talked about. But people are saying punch the glass and the glass broke. Didn't look like a real punch of the glass. I mean, I think he pounded the glass, which happens 100 times a game, and it happens a lot of, and geez, look at an NHL game. You got every fan that sits along there pounds on the glass, but eventually, after taking numerous slap shots, numerous contact, the glass gets weak. I know it's safety glass, but it is going to get weak, and to me, it was I'm not condoning the behavior. Please don't take it wrong. I'm not condoning the behavior of a parent getting up and pounding the glass, getting up from their seat, walking over, pounding the glass. Meanwhile, their parents, you could hear in the background, are saying, "Hey, way to go," as if that's a good thing.
Well, and of course the glass shattered essentially.
But the glass shattered in that, but the glass I think had to be weakened to allow that to happen. This stuff doesn't last forever. So let's get that out now. It is safety glass, but it's not going to last forever. And local rinks like we have at York, which I'm a huge supporter of, can't afford to be replacing glass
I'm imagining they're not installing glass every 8 months.
Exactly. It's not like the NHL, but listen, I watch a lot of NHL games, and at least once every 2 weeks there's a delay because a piece of glass breaks.
Sure.
So I mean, that part of it can happen, but I think the gist of it is, where do we fit in that parents/coaches at the youth level are out of control? I don't deal with that much. I'm very fortunate, again, because I'm coaching 11 and 12-year-olds. I'm coaching an in-house team. We don't do a lot of traveling. I mean, we go to Maryland for games, and people consider that traveling. Well, not in the in-house ranks, not in hockey. That's close by. But we don't go away weekends. We don't put as much money and as much time into it as these travel teams do. Obviously, they are there, and they're going to take it more serious as a travel team, which, I may too if I'm putting the money into. So we are much more recreational oriented. That doesn't mean we haven't had parents voice displeasure, but I don't think nearly at the level that what an incident like this shows.
Sure.
And I think that's kind of one of the things. And, listen, it bothers me more when I hear about parents driving good coaches out, people I know who to be good coaches, yet I know they left because of parents. And I know coaches still going at it today who have whispered to me complaints about parents, not specific. They don't say, hey, yes, so-and-so's, dad is a real piece of work. No, I don't get that. But they'll say, sometimes I wonder why I do this because of the feedback they get with parents. And, that's where, to me, it's really, really sad.
This is a fine line for me. I've watched the video multiple times. Obviously, as Steve alluded to, it seemed like there was a hit on the ice, and a father came down and hit the glass, and the glass shatters on the ice. It looks like, obviously, a protective dad. And I get that. By the same token, I'm always preaching to people, I feel like in our newsroom, about parents in 2015 being, I hate to say over the top, but maybe hysterical in a certain respect. More along the lines of coaching in that environment. I mean, you guys have heard me talk about, we've had conversations on it. I'm not sure if this is the same because it is youth. And again, it was a dad reacting to a player. And again, I don't know the ins and outs of it,
right.
But it's a dad reacting to a player getting hit. Does it make sense what I'm saying here? It's a fine line for me, I think.
No, and you know what? That's a good point, Ted, because, I know, as a parent, there's no secret. I'm a head hockey coach, and my son.
And you're a dad.
And I'm a dad in that. And I'll give you an example of that. I don't mind talking about it. I'm not necessarily proud of it. But last year, our final game, I was an assistant coach. I left the bench because one of our kids was going to get hurt if the refs didn't take control. And this was against another York team. And the refs, just whatever reason they weren't seeing it, and maybe, of course, I'm not objective. I can't kid you. I'm not objective when we're talking about this. But, when I see kids, one kid in particular taking liberties over and over and over in what's supposed to be a non-checking age group, I had a problem with it. But so I didn't do anything really stupid, like get a penalty myself, yelling, throwing a stick on the ice, or just going ballistic. I actually left, and I went over and sat with the parents.
Yeah.
And then they were like, can't you do anything about it? I'm like, what do you want me to do?
I just watched the video for the first time, and my reaction is, wow, that glass broke pretty easily. But the one thing that did bother me from the parents' action is that he didn't even have a hesitation like, oh, wow, I just broke the glass.
Oh, that's a
good, he's 100% right.
It was like, hey, the glass, like his first reaction is, the glass is clear. I can now point my finger as well. And you know what? That's where I have a problem with it.
That's a big
parent
problem.
Pointing a finger at a kid.
And I actually want to just play off this point real quick, because I think you bring up a great point.
I mean, that might be the day that I get fired from the Daily Record, is the day I see a parent pointing at a kid and then I jump out of my role as reporter and say, tell him to pipe down or something.
Get mad on video tackling. I'm glad the parent wasn't Steve knocking the plexi.
But you know what, though? That is a great point.
That really bothers me. Anybody pointing at a kid.
No, and I want to say this real quick, because it's something I wrote down before I came in today. I think I've always known crazy parents, even growing up playing sports. I mean, some of my best friends' parents, I mean, were really intensely involved with our teams. But I think a big difference, and I know this is more in a figurative sense, but there's more finger pointing in general. I think parents are more quick to point the finger, or people associated with the teams are more quick to point the finger at an official or at a coach or at a teammate, as opposed to maybe, I don't want to say in the mirror, but I was always taught to look in-house first. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And no, you're absolutely right. I mean, is this something that's gotten worse? Yeah. Let's face it, it is. And and let me tell you what, I probably should not be a head hockey coach, not because of lack of knowledge or lack of passion for the game, but let's face it, guys, I don't work very conducive hours to be a hockey coach.
It definitely stretches you even more.
Like we have a game Saturday I'm going to miss because I have to work, and it'll be like the second. We have 2 more games I'll probably miss because of work. So I shouldn't be a head coach, but we just don't have a lot of volunteers. Not only that, we've got to go through a lot to be able to coach. Concussion testing, every form of criminal clearance, which isn't a bad thing, but classes. I mean, I've had to attend I have to attend an all-day seminar every year. I have to do online courses. There's a lot of stuff we need to do in the sport of hockey to be a coach.
And that's across the board for coaches of any kind of sport involving children or youth, anybody under 18.
It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing, but you know what? If considering, let's just use high school coach as an example. You're getting paid about $4,000 to $8,000 to do this. It's a full-time job on top of what you're already doing.
Of your full-time job.
It's more demanding now than ever before.
Oh, no doubt. And keep in mind, I'm not. You know what? I'm getting paid to coach hockey.
$0.
$0. I get a very slight discount on my son's, tuition to play. Which, hey, it's worth it. My son wants me to do it. It's worth it. Now, I have a little different approach, and that's because, I'm not coaching any future NHLers. And here lies part of the problem.
Your son?
I was going to say, what about Andrew?
No. He's number one. He's a Smurf, so he's not going. He wants to play in college, and I'm telling him he's too small.
He's the Lionel Messi of hockey.
Yeah, right. Good. Now, I'm just telling him hit the books because that's all that really matters. But I think that's part of the issue. Everybody sees dollar signs with their kids.
Scholarships.
So they're going to get a scholarship. Well, you're not playing them enough. How can he get a scholarship? Because you're not playing them. Well, you know what? It doesn't work that way.
And you know what the unfortunate thing as a coach too? I guess you could say it, but it's hard to tell a parent he's not getting a scholarship. I mean, to be so brutally honest with them, it's just going to stoke the flames.
Yeah, you know what? To a degree, that's part of it. I mean, I think as a parent, you got to be able to willingly look and say, yeah, okay, And listen, I hear all sides of it. I really, really do. I've been at games where a parent just screamed at an athletic director. It was a girls' soccer game. My daughter's a senior. She should be playing. Well, you know what? If it's high school varsity sports, the best kids got to play.
Let me ask you
this. And
this.
that Dover soccer team had a lot of good juniors and sophomores.
Yeah, that wasn't Dover, though. I mean, no, I just said a soccer. I didn't mention the school. I will tell you, it was not Dover.
It wasn't Dover? I thought I heard you say Dover.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, and I also just want to say this, and I want to give you guys an opportunity to talk on it, because both of you are well-sourced reporters. You're on the phone 24/7. You're out at games. You're shooting video. You guys associate with parents. Not all parents are like this.
Oh, goodness, no.
No, I mean, there's and again, even just family members and people closely associated with the team, not everyone is like this.
Why do you think I like covering swimming so much? The clock doesn't lie, okay? You can't say my kid is better than that kid when that kid is swimming 3 seconds faster.
It's very black and white.
It's much more
completely
black
objective.
and white. And the nice thing is, I've had parents say, I don't know if the coach should be using him in that race or that event because he's not really good at it or whatever. Well, that's fine. But, typically they're honor roll kids. It's a different, and again, yes, some get swimming scholarships, but they're not being given out like football scholarships. So, let's take that out of the equation to a degree too.
I'll say this: if it was more bad than good, I don't think, Steve, you would be doing what you're doing now, and I don't think I'd be here covering this stuff now either. I think it would have turned us away a long time ago.
No, there's no, Matt, you're so right about that, and you know, and I was. You know, I know that, you know, kind of the powers that be felt this would be a good talk point, and it is a good talk point. I understand that, but Matt's point is exactly right. I mean, you know,
very well
you know, if it was as bad as it's getting made out to be on social media right now as we speak, you and I would not be in this line of work. I don't think there's any question about it. I've prided myself for a long, long time on the relationships I made with athletes, coaches, but parents
and families.
And, you know, and families.
Yeah.
It is an all-inclusive thing because, you know, let me tell you what, during my downtime, obviously I heard from athletes, I heard from coaches, I heard from parents of kids I covered 10 years prior than that.
Sure.
You know what? There's a lot of good people out there, and you know, it's a shame anytime an incident makes us question that.
Well, and you said it earlier, just the nature of everything. Everyone's got a camera. I mean, it just, you know what it is? It's explosive.
Oh, and that's what's, you know, let's face it, that's what's driving it even more now. You know, everybody's got a camera in their pocket now. You know, it didn't used to be. Listen, I had one of the toughest Little League coaches when I was 9 years old, screamed at the top of his lungs constantly. And you know what my father said to him? Not a word.
Yeah, like my dad was like, keep it coming.
Deal with it, yeah. And, you know, but those are some of the things that changed. And, you know, it's all about communication. And, you know, sometimes I think that is the bottom line of what's lacking.
Yeah, from junior high through freshman year of high school, we had a basketball and football coach who was like a drill instructor. And you know what? Me and my friends were having this conversation while I was home during the holidays. That guy made us better people.
You know what? I was going to say this right now. Frank Martin, he coached at K-State basketball. And I remember watching him coach constantly, really animated. He might be at South Carolina now, really animated, really in the players' faces. I remember watching him, I was like, that's the type of guy I would have hated playing for, but 15 years later, I'd look back and be like, he was one of the best coaches I ever had.
Glad I played for him. Yep, that's very true. So on that note, we're going to get back on the court after this break, talk some stuff we're even better at talking about. So you're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOIK.
Hey athletes, does the winter weather dampen your sports training? It doesn't have to. Take your game inside at Backyard University, York's spectacular indoor sports training facility, right at home in your backyard. Located inside Fairmont Gym at 201 South Charles Street in Red Line, Backyard University is a beautiful, state-of-the-art indoor complex for all of your sport needs. Featuring a complete baseball and softball training complex with batting cages, pitching tunnels, and a turf field for the entire team, Backyard hosts camps, clinics, and competitive youth travel teams to play in the region's top tournaments. Join York Revolution greats Jason Espedo, Daryl Harang, and Corey Thurman for one-on-one training. And take your speed and agility to a whole new level with professional trainer David Brixius from Explosive Sports Performance. Play your game year-round at Backyard University, right at home in your backyard. Visit online at backyard-university.com.
Two girls teams battling for the top spot in Division III and District 3 AA meet Friday in the high school basketball game of the week presented by WellSpan Sports Medicine as DeLone Catholic visits York Catholic. I'm Ron Ruman. Andy Bria and I have the call as the Squirettes look to sweep the season series after winning on their floor in December. The Irish want to return that favor. DeLone Catholic at York Catholic, Friday at 7 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm Daryl Henry. Join Scott Geis and me every Monday at 4 for York College Spartans Sports Weekly, right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Each week, we bring you the latest in Spartan sports, featuring guest appearances from coaches and student athletes. York's home teams play on York's home for local sports. Spartan Sports Weekly, Mondays at 4 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Security in life isn't something you just wish for. You build it with a strong financial plan. Start with Northwestern Mutual. Together, we'll design a disciplined and balanced approach to financial security, because reaching your goals is something we both want to work toward. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on the Square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? the Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hi, I'm York High Boys basketball coach Troy Sowers. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
And we're back on Game Day with GameTimePA. And before we get going, guys, I got a message sent to me via Twitter. And my Twitter handle is at Steve Navaroli. And I'm sitting next to at mgool. I'm not going to exclude you there, buddy.
Thanks, Steve.
From Tom Dorn. Tom was a guy, he was one of our clerks, 4 or 5 years ago.
About 2009,
yeah.
maybe into 2009?
No relation.
Or he might have left in the end of 2009.
I'm no relation to Roger Dorn.
No relation to Roger Dorn.
Stop.
And Tom lives in snowy Buffalo, very snowy where he is, and he just sent us a message. Great discussion you guys had on youth sports and parents. Tom, thanks for listening. Number one, he's obviously
you're the man.
He's either checking us out live or is on the mobile app of 1350. Either way, thrilled to have you listening, Tom, and certainly appreciate
for the shout out.
Yes, appreciate the commentary, especially when it's good commentary and it's complimentary. So we appreciate that more.
We eat it up
nonetheless.
more than free food.
Yes. Well, we eat up free food pretty well though. So, hey, let's go in the gym and boys basketball. West York, still hanging in second place there. I mean, I think Northeastern has obviously shown themselves to be the cream of Division II by a large margin. But they're fighting for their spot in the tournament. Yeah, watch out for Dover, and I guess you're going to be seeing Dover.
Dover tonight, they're playing host to Gettysburg, and that's another game that's got league playoff implications because you got to get in that top three to get a league tournament berth. Gettysburg's at 5-4 in the league right now. Dover's at 6-3. It's kind of a long jab. What Dover and West York and Eastern York, they're all at 6-3 in the league. Of course, trailing Northeastern, which could clinch the league title by this weekend. So, yeah.
Division II, but let's think about this. So Division II, Matt, is kind of how we saw it. Just absolutely. Oh, I mean, it's packed.
It is packed.
Okay, you got Northeastern at the top end, but man, that is an absolute 2 through 5 or a logjam.
And it was funny. I talked to Coach Jeff Barrett from Gettysburg. I talked to him about this topic when they lost at West York earlier this season. Of course, they beat West York recently, so a turn of fortunes, and now that's why it's so jumbled there. Yeah. And that's the part. I mean, you look at West York, you look at Dover. You look at Eastern and you look at Gettysburg, and although, I mean, their personnel's different, they really get kind of the same results. They're really, none of them really jump out as saying, all right, this team's really that much better than the other. The one thing that does jump out is that West York did shut out Gettysburg for a quarter when they played last in December. Mm-hmm. But, Gettysburg comes back and get that win. They've got Marquise Campbell, a tremendous point guard, got some length on the perimeter with Tyler Lamp. You look at West York. I love that 1-2 punch of Josh Bailey at the point and Darian McCauley in the post. I mean, he's a double threat every game. And then, of course, Dover, they've got one of the premier scorers in the league in Ryan Beck. He can really carry that team when they need a basket. Of course, Naja Fink. The center inside at 6'6", Jerry O'Neal, 6 foot forward. I kind of like. I gotta admit, I do kind of like this Dover team a little more than the others in this pack, just because they have a little bit something extra. They're a little more seasoned, this group. They came together last year. O'Neal was a JV fringe player that would play a little bit of varsity. Fink was still adjusting himself to high school varsity basketball, played a lot of AAU. And, of course, Beck was still plugging away. Beck looks to me like the same player, although he's got a tremendous work ethic. So, I just kind of feel like maybe the time is now for that Dover team.
It's almost odd, though, because when we look at it, and it's not to say it would happen this way, because certainly somebody's going to sweep 2 games against somebody else, but these are 4 teams that could all go 1-1 against each other in many ways. I mean, you got to throw Eastern in there. Brogan Nicholas fills up the basket. I mean,
He does, and in kind of similar in fashion where Dover is getting this production outside of Beck, and that's when they really have success. Yeah. Eastern got a sophomore, Jared October. Mm-hmm. Coach John Riekert was talking about him with me during the season. Actually, it was during a girls volleyball match. His wife Jen was coaching
and watching Lauren. Yeah.
Of course, I couldn't resist to talk hoops with John.
Yeah.
And so we brought up Jared, and Jared played as a freshman last year. Now, if you watch Jared play, he's got a funny hook in his shot. Looks kind of awkward, but man, is he productive. Man, can he do so many different things for your team. He can rebound, he can block shot, he can steal. He can do everything and score. So you get kids like that doing those types of things, it changes the complexion of your ball club. And that's what we're seeing with that Eastern squad, why they're right there in the thick of the Division II tournament race, I guess, for those seeds. And, of course, again, big thing to point out is the top 2 spots are the only ones that are guaranteed.
Right.
Third spot depends on Division III, because it's going to be whoever has the best district rating. And I have to get this confirmation from Ari Trimmer, because we could have quite the hairy mix-up there if we've got a bunch of teams tied at the end of the season. So the question is, in that scenario, would they go with just district rating, or would they break the tiebreakers in the division first? So that's one thing we have to figure out, and I haven't got an answer on that yet. I have to ask Marty about it.
And that'll be something we'll talk about in the next segment when we talk a little bit girls hoops, just because, we're looking at similar scenarios there, so it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I look at this, and obviously, I think we had a hunch what Northeastern was going to be, and they've been everything we thought and more. And, West York, gosh, you got that defense. You got the speed at which they play out, certainly triggered with the wheels of Josh Bailey. When Diego Torres healthy, certainly adds another element to their game. Gettysburg, they were the new ones coming in, and frankly, you and I didn't know, and if Brandon was here, we could probably, get a little more breakdown. We didn't know a ton about him, but I know you liked what you saw, and you really liked Coach Bear. I think that was definitely feeling it out.
And one thing Coach Bear mentioned was in that first half of the season, there's a little bit of a feeling out process.
Yeah.
West York, he kind of quoted, mentioned that, hey, this was the first time in their gym, and he thought that had something to do with them being shut out for that second quarter. And I can see the logic in there, because, anybody, whether you're a high school player or you're just an average Joe going out shooting around, when you shoot on a court or on a hoop that you've never been around, there's a little bit of an adjustment period. And West York's kind of got that interesting setup with the stands in the back on the student section, which can help with your, not help, but hinder your depth perception. I know a lot of kids talk about that when they go play in Hershey's Giant Center for districts the first time.
Yes.
Depth perception is a little weird when you're playing in that big arena.
Matt, I think we see it just in the level when they go to play at York College. When they play the league tournament there again, bigger background, higher ceilings. I think that, that comes into play, and, it definitely looks different. So I think that there is something to be said for that very point. And let's face it, West York's not exactly the biggest place they're going to play.
And one thing I want to point out is just promo a new notebook that I'm doing this week. Taking the traditional high school notebook, it's going to be a Sunday notebook now. A little more depth, a little more meat into it. We're going to have some things that you see on the blog in it, like top 5, some game balls, things of that nature. Kind of try to make it like those pro notebooks that you used to read in the newspaper, maybe on a Sunday for baseball or basketball, but be about high school basketball. And one thing I'm going to hit on in this first one is Northeastern being a AAA team at heart with their schedule, but being a Quad A team this year, and how that's hindering what they're trying to do as far as district ratings are going. They just dropped down the 5th, I believe. McCaskey with the big win against Cedar Crest the other night.
That's
jumped
a huge
them.
win.
And you look at Northeastern, they're undefeated, but they have the second worst opponents winning percentage among Quad A teams. Now there's 42 Quad A teams in District 3. Only one team, York County Tech, has a worse opponents winning percentage. And York County Tech has a AA schedule, and that's why their winning percentage is bad.
Because they play in Division 3. And for those that just as a reminder, divisions are broken up by enrollment, with York Tech being the exception, because they don't have they don't have feeder programs typically. Their sports are certainly on a different equation, but all the rest of the divisions are broken up by enrollment, and Northeastern is that one that could easily go in Division 1. It's so close.
And you look at the division breakdown, it's currently 7 in Division 1, 8 in Division 2, 8 in Division 3. And it's funny, Division 1, which has 7 teams, is the only one guaranteed 3 teams in the county tournament, or the league tournament, I should say. So why couldn't they just go 8, 7, 8? The reason being, the York Adams League worked on their schedule, had their schedule and their alignments completed before the new classifications were realigned.
Right.
And the classification, I believe it was 431 was the minimum, was the drop-off for Quad A. Northeastern has 429. But the PIAA decided to drop it down to, I believe, 412.
Yeah.
So right there, that's why Northeastern is a quad A team.
And listen, one of the problems I think with basketball that I wish could somehow get figured out is with all of these small schools, all the small private schools. I mean, District 12 is loaded with nothing but single A charter schools, a couple of which are double A, and they're legitimate basketball powers too. But so many small private schools kind of muddy the waters a little bit by taking
they
so
got some
many
big schools too, like St.
spots.
Joe's Prep.
Well, yeah, but again, if we looked at how many private schools, just muddy up the single A waters, that you look at a Northeastern, which is in all essence they're a triple A school, and yet they've got to be quad A in boys basketball. Dover's experienced this too. I mean, would you and I call Dover, or they might be down in AAA now, but they had to play quad A the last 4 years.
They had to play Lower Merion that 1 year.
I was there, believe me, I saw it, and they handled it all right, but they're playing Kobe Bryant's alma mater in suburban Philadelphia. Yeah, that was a real, what were they going to do though? I mean, you're going to take the road trip, even though you probably have an idea what's going to happen, and that's just one of the unfortunate things. I understand why they do it, because it takes the subjectivity out of it. Okay, it's absolute, these are the numbers. But man, when you're that smaller at that classification, it can wreak some havoc, and unfortunately the Bobcats are there right now.
Yeah, actually I am polling league and just area coaches right now on a couple of topics like shot clock, which we had a discussion about last week. Should Pennsylvania institute a 35-second shot clock? It's been a hot topic for states around the country that don't have one. New York and Maryland have them, but Pennsylvania does not. Ohio does not. And there's a large consensus of coaches want that, would like to see a shot clock. Now there's a lot of coaches who have gotten a lot of success with offenses that are quite meticulous, and they're obviously not for it.
No, a lot of Princeton.
I can't blame them.
A lot of Princeton offenses out there, though. Exactly. So,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, if we're going to talk any girls hoops, we have to go to a break now. So I know Matt could talk boys hoops, but he'll be glad to talk girls hoops too. He can talk that all night. We're going to give him the chance. So we'll be back on Game Day with GameTimePA.
Turning a double play takes teamwork, and so does preparing for life's challenges. Murray Securus works with you, hand in hand, providing thoughtful solutions to help you plan for the future. Team up with Murray Securus for safer, more secure risk management, personal insurance, health benefits, wealth management, even cutting-edge human resource solutions for individuals and small to large businesses. Living life in a winning way just takes a little teamwork. Call Murray Securus today at 397-9600 or go to murrayins.com.
Two girls teams battling for the top spot in Division III and District 3 AA meet Friday in the high school basketball game of the week, presented by Wellspan Sports Medicine as DeLone Catholic visits York Catholic. I'm Ron Ruman. Andy Bria and I have the call as the Squirettes look to sweep the season series after winning on their floor in December. The Irish want to return that favor. DeLone Catholic at York Catholic, Friday at 7 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
The puck drops here.
Wellman, the shot, score!
Sports Radio 1350, your home for Hershey Bears hockey.
Casey Wellman has won it in overtime for Hershey.
And the Washington Capitals.
They're in a shot, they score!
Defending the Den and rocking the red all season. Catch the Bears and the Caps on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hi, I'm West York boys basketball coach Bill Ackerman. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
We're back on Game Day with GameTimePA. Steve Navaroli, Matt Gould. Teddy's somewhere around. I think he had to go take care of something real quick.
I want to say something. Coach Ackerman sounds so enthusiastic on that drop, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, it's Coach. And he'd rather be yelling at the kids to go faster. And I think, and he's really good at that. That's for sure.
Maybe he was asked to do that during a practice.
Yeah, maybe. Now, one coach that always pushes for his team to go faster, no secret, Red Lions, Don Dimoff. Well, against Central the other night, and I touched on it when I gave out my game ball, I just don't know if I've ever seen a quality team frustrated like that. Now, they couldn't hit shots, but the odd thing is, now get this now, Matt, you've done plenty of Red Line girls games, over the years. I've done an unbelievable amount, if you will. And
infinite amount.
Yes, an infinite. And how it always works is how they cause so many turnovers by the other team. First quarter that night, Central forced 7 turnovers. And it was like a reverse of what I've seen from Dimoff teams over the years. And and it wasn't anything, but there was nothing I would say that the Lions were doing terrible.
Yeah, and it's funny because that Red Line team is so undersized this year. It's more fitting for their personnel to cause turnovers and not have as many because they're a bunch of guards.
And they're a bunch of guards and they're good ball handlers. But yet, whatever Central did, and it was funny when I talked to Panthers coach Scott Wisner after, number one, the first thing he said to me was, in 16 years of coaching, that was the best defensive effort he'd ever seen. I mean, yeah, wow, exactly.
Although I said wow when I saw that score, I was like, wait a second,
yeah.
Is that a third quarter score?
Yeah, 30-18, and Central struggled with some things, shooting, and that, but boy, they just played so well defensively, and he said that, and and again, it's centered around the job Emma Saxton did, on terrific player Courtney Dimoff, and then everybody, Kelsey Wisner, she's got her hands in on everything, and Kelsey Shiflett led Central with 11 points, and she's not the first one you would think of for points on that team.
I tell you, when those two schools get together, whether it's boys or girls, it seems like there's some mangled scores. They can get together and make for one ugly basketball game with their defense.
Yeah, but ugly and entertaining at the same time. It's not one of those you go, oh, I can't believe I'm sitting watching this. It's like there's a certain fascination that comes with it, and that's where I found myself in that, and doing some video in that. I mean, the good news, Matt, is you and I always talk about how we do video while trying to keep our notes and our stats and all this, the jumbled way we do things. Well, I didn't have to record a whole lot of baskets as I was doing video because nobody was hitting baskets, but really, I mean, it just was a terrific officiated game, and when you got two teams that are willing to play defense up in your face, you going to the foul line too much? No, not at all.
I would think an A or B crew would have been at that game.
It was. No, it was definitely an A crew doing that, and they did a great job of it. So when you looked at it, just how it just came to be, well, number one, when it came to rebounds, she got in a little bit of foul trouble. Nixon Valencic, she's only a freshman for Central. She's impressive. I mean, she's a good rebounder. A little bit more confidence with the ball. Watch out. She's going to be an absolute dynamic player in this league. And, again, she's starting as a freshman. But, just kind of the way they played. And Wisner was funny after because Scott, I've known Scott a long time. And I also did the game where they came back on Dallastown, tied it, but then lost in overtime. Well, all he was going to talk about, not the 16-point comeback, was the fact that they didn't execute in overtime. And that's, that's kind of all you need to know about Scott. I mean, he is, like that. So when you see that, and you experience that, it's really a neat, neat thing for the way he does it when he was just so happy with how they played. And, and Emma, I talked to her after, Emma said she was just like, okay, I did this, but that was my job to do. Just really nonchalant. Kind of like her brother.
Like her brother, Sam.
I knew you'd get a kick out of that because, So anyhow, I did want to talk a bit about that. Now, we were discussing it. We actually heard a promo in the break about the upcoming big game Friday night. DeLone Catholic at York Catholic. I'm glad to say I'm scheduled to be there this time. And it's funny because in the promo, Ron Ruman says DeLone Catholic won December in their gym. And I looked at you and I said, that happens every year. These two teams have almost legitimately split this game every year. Consistent programs, consistent success, unbelievable coaching on both sides. Give me your input on this thing because I think it's going to be a wild one.
You know what? I always get the feeling DeLone's do. For basically flipping the script on this York Catholic team, and every year York Catholic wins. Yeah. Although the updated district rankings, if you look at them that came out on Tuesday, DeLone has taken the number 1 spot over York Catholic. That win over York Catholic paying off there, I think. Although it still had them in second for the last few weeks. Man, the way York Catholic is playing right now, I would lean toward York Catholic in this matchup. Not because of them being in the home gym and having that home court advantage.
That doesn't hurt either, though.
I mean, after seeing them come back against Dallestown,
a big team.
Yeah. The question is, will Coach Kevin Bankos have the three-point embargo placed in just at least for the first few quarters just to keep things going? He might maybe put it back in if they take some bad shots.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Now, let's face it. I mean, York Catholic is really talented. Certainly talking Marissa Ressler, your game ball recipient, totally deserve it. Hannah Laszlo, Kate Bauhoff. I mean, they have some talent on this team. But the best player on the floor is going to be in black and gold. Maddie Conley. She leads the league in scoring, and it's just she built at 46 one night. I want to say 3 weeks ago or so. She's the one, Matt. When I do the girls' stats, I want to interrupt whatever you're doing and go, Maddie's up to this averaging because she dumped 39 on somebody. She is an unbelievable player, and Kevin Bankos will be the first to tell you she's the best basketball player in this area.
She's had an impressive run of free throws. I think she had like 2 straight games where she didn't miss a free throw, and 3 games where she only missed 1. I mean, she gets to the line and she makes her shots. Kind of like, on the boys' side, I've noticed that with Eli Brooks, kind of like just that innate ability to get to the line and make things happen. Because once you get there, it's automatic with some of these kids.
Right.
And Maddie's definitely one of those examples.
So I think that's going to kind of be, again, the way this thing plays out. And, how... the game's not going to be won in the first half, certainly, because York Catholic can go up 12 and Maddie Conley can hit 3 straight threes to open the third quarter.
Although, Steve, I got to say, I'm not as interested in Act 2 as I'm going to be interested in Act 3.
Yes.
It's going to happen sooner or later.
It usually does, and that's another thing, folks. Usually these teams will play upwards of 3 to 4 times. I remember a year they actually played 5 times. They played twice in the season, once in the league tournament, once in districts, and once in state. So, anything is possible when it is these two. However, typically postseason wise, York Catholic really flexes their muscles.
I think in the league tournament, the Division I teams and West York, the Division II teams, are a little too strong for DeLone and York Catholic to cross paths. That's just my honest opinion.
I think the top teams.
Yes.
I think, but
they would have to overcome some serious odds to meet up in the league tournament.
I think West York is that odd team. I'm not convinced in Division I anymore because, those teams can go cold really easy, and,
but New Oxford's already got that first win against DeLone in who knows how long. So,
you said that.
And I'm really high on that Northeastern team, too. I think if Northeastern gets in the league tournament, they're going to do some damage.
But you know what? If Suburban does, watch out for their defense because they can shut you down. It's amazing. I mean, the contrasts of some of these teams, I think it's made for one of the most entertaining seasons, we've had. And there's only one team.
Last year was pretty entertaining.
It was. There's only one team running away from anybody now. And that's in Division II, West York. But we still both like the teams right behind them. So, it's really funny, and we're getting to the nitty-gritty. I think that's the best part. That's a cool thing. It won't be long.
I can smell
it's February.
that chocolate already.
Yeah, it's February. It's postseason. Matt will spend nearly an entire week in Hershey, and I'll be up there when I'm not doing big swim meets. So it's a lot of fun. Love when the postseason comes around, and, probably something you guys feel free to touch on. Keep in mind, folks, I will be leaving after the next segment. I'm going to turn it over to these guys when we come back from break to just fire some questions my way. And I'll be heading out to a swim meet to cover. And with that, let's go ahead and take our break. And we'll be back to the Uncle Steve segment after this. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
This is a Radio PA news update. Commonwealth Court has given a victory to unionized teachers in Philadelphia, upholding a lower court ruling which set aside the School Reform Commission's move which voided the teachers' contract last October, citing the need to rein in health care costs. A Reform Commission official says they're contemplating their next move. An amendment to the state constitution has moved one step forward following passage of legislation by the Senate Finance Committee.
It would turn the authority to define who's exempt from taxes over to the General Assembly, which is what the Constitution intended. It's what our framers intended.
Senator John Blake, the committee's ranking Democrat, says the courts now have a say in defining a charitable organization. If passed by the full Senate and House and signed by the governor, it would then go to the voters. Last session, the legislature passed more than 350 health-related bills, and experts expect to see hundreds more this session. As Rachel McDevitt reports, the Pennsylvania Medical Society already knows which bills it doesn't want to see.
The society says it is concerned about the reintroduction of bills that would tax healthcare services and will oppose them if they get put back on the table. Last session, both the House and Senate wrote bills that would have allowed school districts to lower property taxes and create taxes for other services. The society's legislative counsel, Scott Chadwick, says one of those could have been a tax on doctors' visits.
And you can imagine what that would do to the cost of health care if a patient going to visit the physician has to pay a sales tax to go visit their doctor. In addition to driving up the cost of health care, it would also conceivably, for some patients, reduce access to care if the tax made it unaffordable.
Last session, the House bill passed into the Senate, but neither became law. I'm Rachel McDevitt.
And the president of one of the state-owned universities can finally remove the word interim from his title. The state system of higher education has approved George Harpster as the 16th president of Shippensburg University. He'd been serving in the post on an interim basis for close to 2 years. I'm David Payne, and you're up to date from Radio PA.
Welcome back to The Cat Show. Up next, we have Nico. Nico is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right. A group known especially for their sunspot sleeping, ball chasing, leg rubbing, couch purring, bed leaping, and of course, companionship.
Wonderful. And what breed would you say Nico is?
I'd have to go with a tabbyish Persian kind of mix.
Tremendous cat.
I'd also like to point out her coat's wonderful mix of colors. Is it black, gray, black, brown?
Somewhere in between.
Indeed.
You know, it's always special when we get to see a cat like this.
Just look how she struts.
It's like she owns the place.
And how she's so incredibly cute in her indifference to commands.
A strong-willed feline.
Ah, and see how she curls up and cuddles her person.
The pitch on her purring is simply perfect.
Nice one.
I know. Fantastic cat.
Fantastic indeed. But really the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Nico is to meet one.
Visit the Shelter Pet Project .org today. Adopt. Brought to you by Maddie. Is fund the Humane Society of the United States.
.org.
First in York. First in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350. WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.
Yemen's government resigns. Why we should care. Winter weather. I'm Evan Haining. All the top elected officials in Yemen have quit. This after an agreement to give Shiite rebels a place in the government. Correspondent Nick Payton-Walsh expects the U.S. to feel this change since so many terrorists operate out of Yemen.
And now it appears that it's going to be tough for Washington to know exactly who to telephone if they need assistance here in Yemen.
The U.S. says over 6,000 members of ISIS have been killed in U.S.-led airstrikes, but Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel questions the importance of that number.
It is a measurement, but I don't think it is the measurement. I mean, I was in a war where there were a lot of body counts every day, and we lost that war.
Texas and Louisiana are getting rained on today, and meteorologist Chad Myers says a winter storm is aiming for the East Coast.
It's already snowing in Oklahoma, but by Saturday morning, this storm gets into the Northeast, and it will be cold enough to make snow.
The Dow is up 241 points, the S&P 26 points higher. I'm Evan Haining.
Now at the Home Depot, get 10% off appliances of $396 or more. So let's have a bigger and better new year. With an extra 10% savings on brands like LG, KitchenAid, and Samsung, you can cook smarter, rinse cleaner, spin faster, and right now, save bigger. Let's do this. With 10% off appliances of $396 or more. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. Valid through January 28th, U.S. only, while supplies last.
If you have Medicare Part D, Walgreens can put you at the corner of switching your prescriptions and saving some money. That's because Walgreens makes it easy to switch and save with copays as low as $0 on select Medicare Part D plans. Just bring us your prescriptions and we'll do the rest. Switch to save even more today. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Applies to Tier 1 generics for select plans.
Hi, I'm Central York boys basketball coach Kevin Sheeler. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Hey folks, we're back. Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. I'm Teddy Feinberg, Steve Navaroli, Matt Gould. We're all in the house today, and of course we're doing our Uncle Steve segment. Obviously Brandon Stoneberg, this has kind of been a staple. I do want to say Mike Rubin introduced this.
He gave it the name.
He did.
Mike gave it the name, because everybody has that crazy uncle. So I'm not sure what he was trying to say by that. But.
And then of course Matt coined it the crazy cousins when we come swooping in, which I really like a lot. But obviously, we fire some questions at Steve, some comments at Steve. We get his analysis, and of course, Matt chimes in as well. It's one of our strong points here in the show. So let's get it cracking. I'll get the ball rolling here, and I brought up Kennerdale Wrestling earlier. I brought up spring. There's been some conversation about Springbrook Grove basketball having a good year. I guess my question is, what in your guys' mind that you've covered here, Steve? We'll start with you. Best rags to riches story, maybe best Cinderella story, anything that comes to mind in a worst to first scenario, that you came into a year and you said, wow, what a fantastic turnaround this program had, what a fantastic human interest thing here.
Boy, there's probably one every year in a lot of sports. So to try to think of one, off the top is, maybe a little more difficult. Well, I don't know, man. I've got to think. Does anything pop in your mind right away with that?
No.
I think a lot of times, we have an idea, and this year, maybe we would look at the suburban girls as kind of that. If we broke it down per year, and
sure.
Historically, certainly there's no question been that and that. But here's another one I'm going to throw out there because I'm heading there tonight. Susquehannock swimming. Certainly swimming has been dominated by Dallastown in Division I, and of course Central's getting really good. Division II has been York, Suburban, or Dover sharing the boys or girls titles, every year since the divisions, and before that it was a lot of Suburban, and Dover has some great girls teams in the early 90s. But here is Susquehannock. They've never had a whole lot of team success. They beat York Suburban last week enough that I decided to switch where I was heading today because I want to see their meet at another one of those programs, Northeastern, because they could decide the boys' Division II title.
How about that first year Dallastown football got going under Kevin Myers?
Great question.
Yeah, it took 2 years, and Kevin's second year, all of a sudden they're a playoff team. Now, this was a team that won 3 games in 4 years. They really, really struggled, and it wasn't anything you'd put your finger on to say, boy, if they did this better. They needed continuity in the coaching ranks, and they got that with Kevin enough that it actually trickles down now to the Cougars level, and I think the results in and of themselves. Sometimes you couldn't figure out how the biggest school in this area, by enrollment, easily the biggest school in this area, couldn't play football.
I can think of a surprise team back. This is actually from my home area in Ohio. When I played in high school, they were terrible. They never won a game. And then I think it was my last year in college. I was stringing for the local paper, and I went to go cover one of their last games where they were playing a team that is traditionally great. And of course, I picked a team that traditionally is good, not the up and coming team. And as I sit there in the press box, they have chili and stuff like that for everybody to eat. And the one mom says, The one mom says,
It always comes back.
I just wouldn't give chili that one guy that keeps picking against us. And I said, that's me.
Did she take the chili back?
No, she didn't.
Well, that was nice of her. But did they win that game then?
They did end up winning that game.
But
they lost the league title game the next week.
Yeah, but still. But as you said, they never won when you were in school. Mere 4 years later.
Not even when I was in school. They never won when I was like a little whippersnapper.
Stop. In my brief tenure here, it seems like last year's Fairfield football team may be kind of in the conversation.
I think that's a pretty good one. I mean, they had struggled. They would get, 1 or 2 wins against really, really even smaller schools, half the time from out of state. And to turn around and win 6 games, I think was quite the accomplishment, including a game against a very good York Catholic team.
I remember, the year they beat York Catholic, 2 years ago, they started out that season with, was it a 72-20 win against Carson Long?
Yeah.
And, we got in the discussion about running up the score, and I think you and I agreed, I don't think Fairfield knows how to take off the brakes. And I can't fault them for finally being in that position where they have to.
But I thought they had a great approach to that season, did just a phenomenal job.
Sure. West York girls basketball, I know you guys talked about them. They're undefeated. Northeastern boys basketball undefeated as well. There's obviously in college hoops right now, Kentucky, I believe they're still undefeated. And I saw something on TV the other day. Would it be good if they experienced a loss? Would a loss be a benefit? So we're going to bring it to the local level now. Do you think in this environment, in this age, in high school basketball, when we look at undefeated teams like that, do you think a loss before single elimination postseason hits can be a good thing, or do you think it's inconsequential?
Do I think it can be? I think it can be, absolutely. And I could tell you probably some coaches that would wholeheartedly agree, Kevin Bankos being one of them at York Catholic. I mean, he will be one who will say, my team was thinking they were better than they are, and a loss is kind of what can bring back that reality. To a degree, maybe it depends on how the coach handles it, but you get the right coach and the right situation, you better believe a loss can be good.
I think in Northeastern's case, it's interesting because let's say they win the York Adams League tournament and they go undefeated in the regular season and they go into districts. That team's still going to have a chip on its shoulder because of the stigma of being a AAA team. There's going to be, I think, a feeling of like, hey, let's go out and prove that we're worth our record, despite being a Quad A team without a Quad A schedule. I think that I don't think it'll factor in for Northeastern.
No, that's good. And you know what, William Penn, they lose games, but yet, boy, I don't know that it ever hurts them.
Troy Sowers keeps talking about the cliche. He cares more about whether they're winning or losing in February and March.
Absolutely.
So,
well, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Oh, but as far as West York goes, I think I hit on this last week. I mean, you look at that senior group, especially with Carrie Langford and Emily Wood. I think that what their focus, they had that chip too because they've lost in the districts and in the league tournament the previous few years. That's where their focus is anyway. So I don't think it would bother them whether or not they lost a game or went undefeated. I don't think going undefeated into districts or league would hurt them.
Well, I guess the question is, can you, as a team, do you learn something by losing that obviously you don't learn when you win? Does the process of losing help you with the process of winning?
I don't think it would have an effect on West York as much because that group has experienced it in the past. Whereas this Northeastern group, maybe it would take a little bit of a monkey off their back a little bit, but I don't think so. I think they'll find more than enough motivation to keep going.
And I think it depends on your team and how that, I have seen teams over the years that, you could see where that loss really, really helped them.
That Dover girls team from 2 years ago, when they lost to Dallastown, without that loss, I don't think they would have had the run they did in the States that year.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, and and it's happened to Redline a couple times too in the girls' game, where they've lost in the league tournament, but then finished semifinals in the States. They took that seriously. So,
Mr. Gould, and we're going to get into this later in the program. Of course, Steve, when you leave after this segment, still not over that, but that's a joke. But he put together, Player of the Year candidates, All-Star candidates, a watch list, if you will, for high school hoops. I want to ask both of you, season ends today, who's your Player of the Year in the YAIA?
For boys, I think it's a 3-person race. Yep. I would go 1, Kobe Nwandu, 2, Jair Wilson, 3, Dylan Krieger.
Okay. I would go Nwandu, Krieger, Wilson, not to knock Wilson, I think just because they're just so, that team is just,
they're loaded.
Is as good without them. And I don't want to say it like that because we know they're better with Jair Wilson. But just look at what they did when he couldn't play. There is so many weapons on that team. And maybe the same could be said for Kobe, but he just does so much.
But I struggle to find another player who averages 18, 12, and 2 blocks playing quad A competition like Wilson.
Probably averages 3 assists, too. I mean, that's not a number you and I would know, if you will. But, yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And now, that's the way I would do it today. Matt and I, we went back and forth on this. I said, would I change it
of course.
After the league tournament?
You have
to. Quite possibly. I mean, as far as performances that I've seen, it's Nwandu and Krieger. But I saw York when Jair wasn't there, so that's unfair.
On the girls' side, I think it's a 2-person race between Carrie Langford and Maddie Comley.
I think it's all Maddie Comley at this point. And that is not a knock on Carrie Langford, because she is an unbelievable player, and it's not just the stats. She does so many little things. I mean, and there's times when, Matt, and you're kind of a basketball stat geek, if you will, but maybe the assists don't get recorded right. I mean, where she can penetrate, dish out, bang, there's an assist. Maybe she doesn't get credit for it. We know how good she is at that. I just can't argue with those 26 a game Maddie throws down.
Also, Emily Wood is having a pretty good year for West York. I think that gets overlooked. And she's having a better year than anyone outside of Maddie is at Delone. So West York's got that going.
And I saw that when I went and did a preseason video there. I'm watching Wood just absolutely hammer from 12, from 15, and then from 3. And I asked Langford, and she said, well, she could always shoot. And I said, like this? Well, she might be a little bit better. She might have been working on it. Unbelievable.
From the 30,000-foot view, and that's really where I stand at this point, but it seemed like looking at both lists that Matt put together, again, me and Matt are going to go over them, it seemed like the boys' list was really compelling. I mean, not that there aren't real clear favorites, but it seemed like there were a lot of big names who were having great years on that list.
As there should be. I mean, actually, when you break it down, and the thing that is, there's like then you got that second-tier player, I mean, geez, we're talking Player of the Year, and we didn't mention Ryan Beck. Think of those numbers.
Right.
Josh Bailey's another one of those kids. Great defender, 16 a game. There's so many kids like
Brogan
this.
Nicholas has had a good year. I mean, there were a lot of names. Saxton.
And maybe we have more on the boys' side a little bit. But let's not get caught up too much in scoring.
And that's
points
why
are higher.
we're getting caught up in scoring.
Yeah, maybe I'm a victim of the scoring.
I think you are, Teddy.
I got to take a hard look in the mirror about
that. But Teddy, it's the easiest thing to look at, though. I mean, let's face it. That's the most tangible thing that if you're not out at games, that's the most tangible thing you see. I mean, because I even contradicted myself when I said about the girls. Yes, I would give it to Madley, and then I started talking about all the great things Carrie does away from the ball.
Exactly.
So it's really funny that it is definitely not all about points.
I'm going to give it to Phil Overton. No, that's a joke.
Yeah, well, of course.
You do love Phil Overton.
You get everything for Phil. That's okay. You're loud.
Steve, do we got a jam right now?
Yeah, I got time for one more if you've got it.
Okay, I have one more. PIAA is considering a proposal to expand the football playoffs from 4 to 6 classifications. I want to say Penn Live reported this yesterday. And they would actually reduce the regular season from 10 weeks to 9. I just wanted your guys' thoughts, input, analysis on this particular topic.
2005, okay, Redland had to start the basketball season with 7 players because they were still alive in the football playoffs. A marvelous proposal was completely documented, researched in that. What if we go to 5 or 6 classifications? This is what it'll do to the schedule. Football should not last until December 15th in Pennsylvania. It shouldn't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And the way they set it up was brilliant. The season would have ended 2 weeks earlier. No games would have been lost. And a couple districts that only care about football, could care less if there were other sports out there, said, nope.
Pittsburgh?
Well, that would be one of them. So, but that was it. And the funny thing is, and I thought all these years, I thought maybe I just created that. Remember when John Buffone, our guy who grew up in Pittsburgh, who works for GameTimePA in Lancaster, was with us for one show, and I brought it up that way, and he said, no, you're absolutely right. That's the way it is. And so this was such a well-done thing. Connecticut has 6 classifications.
Little Connecticut. Matt, what'd you tell me Ohio has?
Ohio had always had 6. They recently went to 7. They divided Division 1, the Quad A equivalent,
right,
to 2 classifications.
Oh, and it's great football in Ohio, as you're always going to tell me. No, and I'm going to agree with you, no doubt. But come on, think of population. I mean, Michigan has 6 or 7. Maryland has 5. These are smaller states that have more classifications than Pennsylvania.
I think Pennsylvania's biggest issue right now is they start the season a little too late. I think they should start the season at least a week early. Definitely practice. I mean, the 2 and 3 days, they start in mid-August. I think they should be starting August 1st to get in a little bit earlier. I think that's the major hindrance. And you know what? State championship should end by the first week of December.
Yeah. That's I would love to see that.
So you're both in favor?
Long overdue.
It was kind of funny when I was looking.
You guys are agreeing?
Well, here's the thing.
Once in a while.
Here's the thing. The one thing that just looked weird to me looking at the classifications and how it would break down, and it just seems like, wow, that's a really watered down pool. It's like winning a district title wouldn't win as much. I almost would wonder if they should realign districts, almost like maybe make the districts a little bit bigger and fewer districts. That's just a thought.
Interesting thought at that, though. I wouldn't have necessarily thought of going down that road, but
it would definitely make the competitive balance really locked.
But I mean, District 3, I feel like is a good size right now, and I think that's just my one worry is that I feel like you have more champs, and it wouldn't mean as much because the pool size would be a little bit smaller. That's my.
You know what
worry.
though? If you're a Class 6, however they do it, or let's use 5. If you're the Class 5A champ, do you feel any worse about it that they expanded to 5 come time you're raising that trophy? Absolutely not.
I mean, I'm not thinking about it.
No. Let them do it. So, all right, I'm gonna cruise.
Hey, thanks for being here.
Swim meet.
Cool to go on a cruise.
I'm gonna mention my buddy. I got a text from Ron Miller who loved the topic of if a loss is good. I'm thinking he would be one of those coaches that would coach up a loss pretty hard.
A lot of listener interaction. Thanks, Coach Miller.
Great stuff.
It's all about finding something you can work off of.
Exactly. Heading to the pool.
Adios. We'll be back.
January and February are Caribbean months at Fender's Grill & Pub, located at the Wyndham Garden, York, formerly the Holiday Inn by the West Manchester Mall. Featuring chef's Caribbean specialties and Caribbean drinks, plus Fender's regular menu. Visit Fender's to beat the winter blues and sign up for a chance to win a beach vacation. Register during January and February. The winner will be drawn on March 1st. Fender's is open daily for breakfast and dinner, for private parties, and we have live entertainment Friday nights. Fender's Grill & Pub, 2000 Louts Road in York. Come visit us today.
Get ready for winter now and save big on your heating oil or propane costs. Call today to schedule your first fill, and don't forget to ask our energy advisors about the right money-saving plan or budget to fit your lifestyle. Lock in your rate and protect your price all winter. Our price-protected customers save an average of $325 per year. Visit ShipleyEnergy.com or call 855-4SHIPLEY to schedule your next heating oil or propane delivery. Shipley Energy, energy for life.
Looking for something cool to do this weekend? Looking for a different kind of family fun? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Get on the ice with your friends for Rock and Skate. The last Friday of each month. Every Wednesday is family night with free skate rentals for the whole family. And remember, the coolest place in town is also available for the coolest birthday party in town. For party package prices and public skating times, check out YorkSkate.com. Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages, for every skating ability. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork, and skating rental is included. Or get on the ice for York Ice Arena hockey programs. Taught by Ice Arena coaches, boys and girls can learn proper techniques for the game. Rental equipment is available. Group skating lessons and beginner hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to YorkSkate.com.
The York College Spartans play here. Catch York College basketball all season on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Your home for York's home teams.
Here's Wessner again, behind a screen, he hits another three. Ahead to Myers, wide open for the dunk. He jams another one, his second tonight.
The spot for the Spartans. Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hi, I'm West York girls basketball coach Daryl Wilson. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
We are back. Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. I'm Teddy Feinberg, joined by Matt Gould. Steve Navaroli hit the road. Steve is doing his swimming thing, so me and Matt are going to take you home.
Teddy steps into the Cardale Jones hot seat once again.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, this seat, it definitely brings some heat. But
and the heater's closer to me, so, man.
Yeah, no, this room is cold. The heater's a lifesaver. We do this show from the York Revs press box, for those who don't know, and it gets chilly.
Yeah. Well, we're overlooking the ball field right now. Although Darryl Henry has told us that we're actually going to soon be over close to the walkway. So once the Rev season starts, people would be able to see us. You know, which would be lots of fun during the fall. Yeah.
Those listeners can make faces into the camera.
They'll have like a college game day feel to it. Maybe. Maybe we'll get crazy signage like they did during college game day this past fall.
I can't be Corso, man. I can't be Corso.
Oh, I'll be Corso. I'll dress up and do things like that. Get my big hats on for the mascots.
I'm down with that. Mm-hmm. Matt does great work on our Varsity Beat blog every single week. Last week he did the power rankings. It got some people talking. This week he did, again, maybe clarify for me, a player of the year watch list, all-star watch list.
Yeah, I mean, we called it a player of the year watch, but I almost kind of try to just almost do a top 15, and which could almost be like a really 3 teams, really all-star teams if you want to do a first team, second team, third team. Although we just did a top 10 in alphabetical order, not to rank them yet.
Very good call.
And then although I think you could see the differentiation between the top 10 and then just the next 5, to mention 5 more deserving candidates. And Teddy, we want to break this down. Do you want to start with boys or girls?
Well, actually, I would like to start with on the boys' side of the ledger, but I guess the first thing, I just wanted to see what you cover basketball so closely in this region, this area, and it really is near and dear to your heart. What's your criteria when you put a player on the list? I mean, I know statistics are important, but what, as the basketball journalist that you are, what are you looking for in particular?
Well, in the first one, I tried to go away from the stats and go with my eyes. Just kind of like
the eye test.
Yes,
test.
One perfect example is I actually just had a conversation with somebody about this today. Is I put Christopher Johnson on this list from William Penn.
I wanted to get to that.
And he's only averaging 9 points a game, but he's shooting 54% from the floor. He's really, I mean, you look at that William Penn team, along with Northeastern, they're the 2 most talented teams, player for player. And if you look at the descriptions I wrote, Kobe Nwandu's the one Northeastern player on there, but he's got just a mammoth description because I had to throw in.
It was a mammoth, no question.
Mention some other guys on that team that are making things work for them. But you look at William Penn, Christopher Johnson has the most college potential on that team.
Yep.
He's a 6'6" guard. How many 6'6" guards do we have in York County or in just the York Adams area itself? Not many. They don't come along that often. He has to be recognized. He's the one kid on that team who has taken a back seat, has basically taken a team-first attitude, not taking as many shots when there's only one basketball to go around.
Good defensive player.
He's really made a sacrifice for the good of that team, and I felt like that was important to single him out and still reference him on there despite the lack of scoring.
No, that was actually one of the guys I wanted to ask you about, because obviously you had Montrell Morgan, you had Jair Wilson. Those guys were fairly, I mean, when I opened the list, I anticipated to see them on there. I did not expect.
Well, I have to give an assist to Jim Sipe on this because I was kind of going back and forth on all right.
He's a distributor.
Who should be on this team? And I was rattling off some guys on this team, and Jim said flat out, if you were going to pick a team, would you have this kid? Would you take this person over say Chris Johnson? And I said, heck no. And he's like, well, then why would you put him on the list over him?
I'm going to take that for the rest of my career as well. That feedback.
So that's why we did what we did. I tried to make this list, although there is one caveat to that, because it's kind of a hard mix of accomplishments this season, how they've performed, and who would you take. Because you know what? One guy I would definitely take in my top 10 who is not on that list is Charlie Ganger.
He's had a great year.
He's a tremendous rebounder, but actually he hasn't had that many scoring games, and I don't think that's a fault of his, because the way Central has played, at least when I've seen them, Charlie gets his baskets off of rebounds. He's a tremendous offensive rebounder. He's probably the best offensive rebounder in the York Adams.
You would have him on your team.
I would have him on my team.
It's been a little up and down, but you know what? Next time we do this list, I would hope to see Charlie on that list.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, the list fluctuates, it changes, similar to the power ranking.
And like we put Jared Wagner on that list, one of his teammates, and the reason why Jared gets on there is because Jared, I mean, he has it seems like 6 steals a game. I mean, he is relentless on the defensive side of the ball. He had a nice start to the season, so I thought it was important to put him on there. And but some of the guys that really singled out to have, if I had to just go with a top 5, let's say for an all York Adams League team right now, I think you would have the 3 guys we were talking about as front runners for Player of the Year right now: Jair Wilson, Kobe Nwandu, Dylan Krieger. The other 2, I would probably go with Eli Brooks of Spring Grove and Ryan Beck of Dover right now as a top 5.
Okay. Josh Bailey, West York. Thoughts, analysis on him as a player?
You know, it's funny. Him and Darian McCauley, one's a guard, one's a post. Both of them are definitely worthy of being on that top 10. I went with Josh because West York's kind of picked up their game lately, and Bailey's been the one. I can't always go on every game because I don't see every game. So I have
that's
to go
one
off
of
the
the
box scores a little
sure.
bit. Josh has really picked up his game as of late and really gotten things going. And it's fine when I watch them. You know, he does a lot of things that don't show up on the stat sheet. You know, Darian's a double-double machine, but those things do still show up on the stat sheet. And, Darian kind of anchors the backside of that defense. Josh anchors the front end. So I thought it was, time appropriate to give a little more credence to him.
No question. No question. Now, did you mention Brogan Nicholas yet?
Mm-hmm. Brogan Nicholas was on that list.
And he's had a fantastic year.
He has had a fantastic year, and he's one of the vets on that Eastern team now at 6-3, and you look at him, he fills it up, 20 points a game. I mean, he's kind of he's kind of a bit of a basketball pedigree with that Nicholas family. So the Eastern team is playing well. You got a 20-point scorer on a team that's contending. You have to include him on that list.
Do you have any other things you want to share on the boys' side, or should we switch to girls? What do you think?
You know what? I think the fact that we mentioned it in the Your Uncle Steve segment, I really do think, as far as Player of the Year goes, right now I think it's 3.
Right now,
3 guys really stand out, and you could argue any of them. I really like Jair Wilson's raw ability and what he's done with that William Penn team. Although, like Steve pointed out, they do just as well without him. And I even mentioned in Wilson's bio description, one omission from that list is a 4th William Penn player, Brandon Smallwood, who has just been unbelievable for that team.
Well, in the game that Nav went to, they did just as well. They're a very good team.
There was a 5-game stretch where he just stepped up for them. And Wilson has deferred to him a little bit to get him going. And those are the types of things that I think teams do that pays off when they get to Hershey.
So you had Wilson, and there were 2 others in your top 3.
And we haven't talked about Montreal Morgan, the reason why he's on that list. He came into William Penn this year, coming from New Hope, single A school, and you could see a little bit of him, the struggles with adjusting there at first. I remember seeing them against Reading, and there were a lot of times where there's that anticipation that comes with the speed of the game.
Sure.
And the anticipation playing Reading versus even playing, say, St. John's Newman, one of the top single A teams that New Hope played last year, quite different. And it was evident then, but a couple of games later, Troy Sowers decided to make Morgan a starting point guard. He started since then, and he's flourished.
He's been great.
So I think that was worth why he's on that list as well.
What about from a girl's standpoint? We kind of touched on this earlier. Obviously, there's some players that are having, really sensational. See, Maddie Conley's having a sensational year, really scoring the ball. But again, similar criteria, but talk about some of the players that you put on this list as well.
Well, first, I think if memory serves me correct, it's just in the 10, Northeastern's the only team that has 2 players, Jordan Closter and Peyton Hauk.
I mean, just think of the fans of the idea. We have Comley, we have Courtney Dimoff of Red Lion, Peyton Hauk, as you just alluded to, Rebecca Isaac of Biglerville, Amari Johnson, Dallastown. You mentioned Closter, Carrie Langford of West York, Claudia Mangora of York Suburban, Marissa Wrestler, York Catholic, and, of course, Wisner at Central York.
And Wrestler is one who's ascending, I think, because I mentioned giving her the game ball earlier.
Sure, yeah.
Earlier today. She's really, really been picking up for that York Catholic team. And the one tough one was China Steele. You might notice her in the next 5. I originally had her in the top 10. We were kind of going back and forth talking about competition and things of that nature, factoring things of like, how's the team doing?
It's hard to quantify some of these things.
It is, and like I kind of wanted to put her in there over a couple players, but you can't ignore the season Suburban's having, and that's why Claudia Mangora belongs in there. She's the leading scorer for probably the surprise team of the York Adams League this season, at least maybe not surprise, but most improved team. You look at New Oxford, Kaylin Long is in that top 15. You got to go with somebody on that team because New Oxford could conceivably win the York Adams League. That's the one team that we haven't talked about a lot, and that's the team that does things on the defensive end. Amari Johnson, I would say Amari Johnson is the most talented player in the league. She's having her typical season. I mean, if it's kind of funny. We talk about in the NBA those MVP races.
Yeah.
And LeBron doesn't get the MVP because he's having his typical season. He's not improving on it. I almost feel like Amari is just as deserving to be Player of the Year because she's having her typical.
You set the bar at a certain level, and then it's ho hum.
Yeah, and she's also fall victim. Her team's not winning the division title right now. I'll tell you what. If Dallastown wins the league title, I'm going to probably say to Steve, "Hey, my vote's for Amari Johnson."
Really? Yeah, she's a great player.
And that's the one thing. I think these things will change once you get into league and districts, because there's a lot of individual performances, but also team performances factor into this as well, just a little bit.
Now we did have a reader question from Ben Strope, one of our loyal viewers. He wanted to know about the Gettysburg Showcase this week. He wrote to us on Twitter. He asked for your analysis. I realize every single game you might not necessarily have an answer.
Lots of good games, but it looks like they get better as the night goes on.
Go ahead.
I mean, West York and McDevitt's that game that really grabs my attention because, if Millick Gantz and the Crusaders going in there to play West York ought to be a fun one. Central and Chambersburg could be kind of interesting. I saw Spring Grove's playing Camp Hill in that game.
Yes,
I know I'll be at the Red Line Girls Showcase, so I've been trying to pay a little more closely attention to the matchups in that one. But if you have them, Teddy, could you rattle off?
Well, I mean, West York McDevitt obviously seems like a marquee game here,
and it's going to be important for district positioning too.
I don't know if you have anything on Waynesboro, Burr, Southwestern Redland, New Oxford, Mechanicsburg.
I can't say that I do.
No, it's a very honest statement. But
I think those are good games for those teams to get on that floor and just be a part of because it's an all-day event. I think for New Oxford because New Oxford's got some talent players. They might not be having the best season, but Devin Duvall is a nice player. John Wessel is young, and New Oxford's only going to get better with Wessel.
And then, you brought up earlier Spring Grove, Camp Hill. What do you think is going to happen here? What would you look for in a game like this? Following obviously the Rockets.
Well, it's funny. That was a matchup we originally thought were they playing Carlisle again? And it looked like it was a misprint. And in fact, it was a misprint. They were playing Camp Hill. It's a weird matchup because you almost wonder. All right, for Spring Grove, this doesn't help because they're playing a double A team and they're a quad A. So that's the one thing that stands out to me right there. That's like, ooh, that's. Kind of stinks for Spring Grove's sake because they're playing a quality opponent that really is a double A team.
Yeah.
It's kind of like those darned if you do, darned
if
you don't.
Absolutely. Kind of a no-win for them in a sense.
Yeah, it's just like in football when you're playing, when you're a triple A and you're playing a double A team in the non-league schedule, it doesn't really do much for you.
And of course, that double A is going to get up for you. Well, I think that does it for this segment. I do want to talk high school hoops when we come back as well. We will come back. You're listening to Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
At Northwestern Mutual, we take a disciplined and balanced approach to financial planning. Together, we'll help build your financial future on time-tested principles, not market trends, so you can take advantage of life's opportunities. To learn more, contact me, Dan McGarry, at my office on a square in York. Look for the blue awnings. Who's helping you build your financial future? The Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Hey, sports fans, great news. Now you can listen to Sports Radio 1350 anywhere with the new WOYK mobile apps. Stranded in Siberia? No problem. Kidnapped by wolves? It's not as bad as you may think. wherever you are, WOYK is with you on the brand new mobile apps. York's only local sports station just went mobile and global. Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Under center with McNabb and Malone.
What's next for Ray McDonald, who was not only arrested for domestic abuse on his pregnant wife or fiance, but played this past Sunday?
The whole thing comes down to is the NFL and Roger Goodell. You know, when you make the decision of suspending Ray Rice for 2 games, then you come back out to clean things up and say, hey, we're going to be stricter. We're going to come out and suspend guys 6 games, and then it's a 1-year ban. Well, why didn't you just do it in the first place?
Under center, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific on NBC Sports Radio.
The York College Spartans play here. Catch York College basketball all season on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Your home for York's home teams.
And that's going to do it. The York College Spartans are 2014 CAC champions.
The spot for the Spartans. Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hi, this is Wayne McCullough. Join me every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. for Central PA Game Day, right here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. Join us as we celebrate the best of local sports with your teams and your student athletes. Interviews with players and coaches, and the high school scoreboard show every Saturday morning. Central PA Game Day, Saturdays at 9 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. First in York, first in sports.
Hi, I'm Dover boys basketball coach Brian Schmoyer. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Hey folks, we're back. Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. We're taking up to 6 o'clock. Me and Matt Gould here in studio. Just hanging out, talking high school hoops. We're going to continue with high school hoops. Now, Matt, you do this periodically, I believe, for a handful of sports, but particularly hoops this season, where you've sent out, I guess we'll call them questionnaires to various coaches in the area, ask them about certain issues that we or you deem important. You know, maybe you'll bounce some opinions off different people. And you come back with, answers. Now, some of the questions you sent out this past week, you asked about possibly a shot clock being instituted in high school hoops, players on social media, particularly from a Twitter standpoint, boys and girls basketball being on the same night, obviously where the boys are playing in one gym, girls in another. Do you think players in District 3 recruit, or coaches in District 3 recruit, my apologies, and also just, what they think about the state tournament format. I know you've gotten some answers, and we're obviously going to withhold names for now. But what were some of the surprise answers or some of the intriguing answers you received? And why don't we just take it from the top? Let's start with shot clock.
Well, I've gotten probably about 15 or so, at least a little more than a dozen responses. And it's kind of interesting watching those responses come in, because you see them go one way.
It's a thrill, actually.
There's like a run of all of a sudden a lot of coaches saying, yeah, I like a shot clock. Yeah, I like a shot clock. And I was thinking, wow, it's kind of running away with everybody being for one. But then all of a sudden, here comes a run of other questionnaires I get back, and it's like, no.
Yeah, no question.
It's just like basketball, a game of runs.
You find that one's been balanced for the most part.
Yeah, that one's been really balanced. It's really too close to call to see which way it's going to go. But, I think, and it's kind of funny, like, looking at the coaches' responses, I can kind of tell, based on what offenses they run,
of course,
which way they side.
Of course.
The ones who play a more methodical offense are definitely against the shot clock. It's a really compelling argument,
really
just because, I think we had this discussion last week, if I'm not mistaken. I've seen it. I've had this discussion with friends.
I feel like me and you have talked about 10 times.
And just seen it just around the place. So I said, why not make this... Actually, the shot clock was the drive to send out this questionnaire.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a couple other questions. I said, hey, why not ask this as well?
Sure.
And that's how we got into it.
Obviously, your job is to get the answers. And, of course, we're human. You're going to formulate an opinion as well. You have an opinion on the issue.
Well,
or are you still forming yours?
Part of me is like, I would be against the shot clock for a couple reasons. One, I think, there's a lot of teams that use a zone to basically combat a more skilled team.
Sure.
Now granted, there's things that you can, shooting's a skill, and shooting is a way to beat the zone.
A very athletic team can be tough to man up, just man to man. Yeah.
And that's part of the thing I don't like. I mean, personally, I like watching teams that are more better in man to man than zone. I mean, I like.
Of course.
Kids go, teams, players, basketball players go at it. It's just like being at the park in the summertime. So that's where I'd kind of lean toward no, but there are a lot of fun things that can come about with a shot clock, like set plays. I mean, I remember last year we did a whole video of just buzzer beaters we caught last season. Those are the types of those are the type of situations that would come with a shot clock. And there's a lot of great kids. C.J. Boxley from York High, who's spent his first few years at York Suburban. I was talking to his dad after a game on Friday night. This is now 3 straight seasons I've seen him hit a buzzer-beating shot, and I've caught it on video.
It's amazing.
So, he's a guy who I think would excel if there was a shot clock, This was the first guy I thought of today when I was thinking about it. So it's kind of funny. It's I'm someone who can be torn either way on the issue.
I see it both ways. One thing that I learned, covering high school hoops over the years, where I've covered teams that really play the stall. It's one thing for a team to resort to playing stall, and it's another thing for them to just play the stall style. And fans, generally speaking, don't pay their hard-earned money to go to a game and see a team hold the ball there. You know what I mean? It's better to see basketball, as it was meant to be played. But I thought you brought up a compelling argument to me the other day that actually, again, the zone argument, how teams will actually zone up the athletic, skilled team, and so that's a strategy to pull them out. So it can go both ways.
I once saw a team fall down 2-0, and they went to a zone after the first possession of the first quarter, and the next shot went off at the end of the quarter.
I can't stand that.
But you can't stand that. But you know what? Those are things that you remember. Those are kind of they're kind of cool moments in a way. They don't happen often, and it's just unique and weird and wild.
They're one of those things when you're putting your year in review package together, you remember that quarter, and you actually make a footnote of it. Yeah, no question. Players on social media. I can honestly say if I was a coach, and this is just me, I would really, 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 really prefer it if my players stayed off social media. I just think there's a lot of potholes to it. Someone called them ditches. And I guess it's all about responsibility, but it's not about my opinion. I want to know what some responses were, and again, what your thoughts.
This is one that I thought was going to be full out against it, and I've been kind of surprised to see a lot more coaches okay with it and in favor of it. Some of them gone as far as say they like it because it teach they go out of their way to talk to the kids about hey, this is a way to be responsible with it, and it kind of
it can be a teaching tool.
It is, and you know what? It's kind of it gives you that same value that you get out of interviewing for a job, how to act and how not to act.
It's a part of our world, for better or worse.
In a way, it takes you out of your comfort zone. It doesn't. A lot of kids go on there and it is a comfort zone, but it kind of at some point you got to learn, hey, there's a certain way to act and a certain way not to act out in public, and Twitter is actually a way to be out in public in a way, even though you do it in the privacy of wherever you're at. So I think a lot of coaches really hammered home the point that it's something to use as a learning tool.
Yeah, I don't think any coach, it's one thing to say in season maybe stay off it. You could never just be you can't do it. It's just not going to happen.
No, I think well, it was funny. One coach did say, I don't want them tweeting during the games. I thought, is this the NFL? so
pull it out from underneath the bench.
But I think it is more of I think it's a great point. Here's one thing that I've actually brought up in the past with Twitter and seeing high school kids interact, high school athletes interact on it, is I don't know if I would have seen when I was in high school in the late 90s. I don't know if everyone would have been as cordial with each other had we had Twitter. I think there would have been a lot more trash talking than you see today.
Interesting.
I think, and you know what, and we hammer, there's a lot, AAU gets blamed a lot for certain things, kind of gets a bad rap. AAU, I think, has gone a long way in helping kids get along. I think there's a lot more camaraderie among foes because of it. It gets ridiculed in the NBA for everybody being too buddy-buddy, but I think that's actually a good thing in the high school game.
Yeah, well, it kind of, in a sense, they're kind of playing for the same team in a way, and they associate with each other a lot.
Perfect example. When we did our cover shoot for the season preview, we had Sam Saxton and Trey Shiflett, William Penn and Central York players.
Yeah, of course. And they knew each other, I'm sure.
They knew each other because they played on the York Ballers team coached by Pat McGlynn. And it was kind of funny. Like, after we were done, Trey didn't have a ride, but Sam before anybody said anything, Sam asked him if he wanted a ride.
Sure.
And those are the types of things that you see that are just, really cool that, and he didn't have to offer him. I mean, that's the thing. Maybe at one point,
he's a bigger man than I am.
If there were two rivals, they probably wouldn't have done that. But you know what? Those two guys got along great. And I remember noticing them, like, later that night when I was writing and working on some stuff, I noticed on Twitter, like, them kind of going back and forth and saying good luck and stuff like that.
I am interested in your thoughts on boys and girls games being played on the same night, because obviously in my view, and well, again, not just your thoughts, some of the responses you may have gotten to this point, because in my view is that it's a hit on two ways. It's a hit for the viewer who wants to see both teams play, and it can also be a hit at the box, like a negative hit at the box office.
Here's one that it's almost kind of weird because you can answer it one way but mean something completely different. Like you could be in
Love
favor.
those.
You could be in favor of them playing on the same night, but you could want them to play at the same site and make it a boys-girls doubleheader.
I'm all about that.
And there's the few times that's happened this season and in previous seasons, they've been quite successful.
Well, I actually just want to intervene. I would think that's how you would have to do it, because obviously, logically speaking, let's just say hypothetically you're a supporter of Dallastown, hypothetically. You want to see the boys and the girls team play, and the easiest way to do that would be to stagger those games.
Yeah. But, I mean, so in that sense, you could be in favor of them playing on the same night, but in the way it's currently constructed, they're playing on the same night, but at different sites.
Sure.
So that kind of cuts down on your crowd a little bit. Some people are going to go to one game
of
over
course.
the other. I mean, we've seen it in some schools. The more people are going to go to the boys' game and the girls' game. You look at York Catholic. More. I think the girls draw a bigger crowd than the boys do. So I mean, they kind of take away from the other. Whereas you've got your diehard locals who would go to that one other game if it wasn't for the other team playing that same night. And that's where I think it kind of hurts a little bit.
No question. Real interesting questions. I'd love to get to them all. We're literally have 8 minutes to go in the program. One more commercial break. Do you have anything you want to add about anything that anyone gave you at this point?
Not really. I think we kind of hit on it. The Twitter thing is kind of interesting. I was surprised.
Find it interesting.
And the league the district and state tournament format's kind of interesting because I think a lot of coaches might be against it for the public-private school reasons. I more would be against it because I think one and done with a state tournament or a district tournament being combined. I kind of, me personally, I would like to see it go kind of mimic football, whereas the bigger district tournaments last longer.
Sure.
Whereas the other district tournaments are smaller, but you win, you go on. Because William Penn made a run to the state final a couple years ago, but they lost in their district tournament. That seemed kind of unfair to the team that beat them. That that you get reseeded and play over again. It just kind of seems a little fuzzy to me.
Interesting. Well, great stuff, man. And yeah, we will be back. We have a few more minutes to go in the program. We do want to just talk on Spring Groves football hire when we come back, and also some of our social media ventures this weekend. So
Teddy loves the social media.
I love the social media. Come back game day with GameTimePA.
Want to learn to skate? Want to suit up and learn how to play some hockey? Come to the coolest place in town, York Ice Arena. Learn to skate programs are now available for all ages. For every skating ability, kids of all ages will learn how to feel comfortable on ice, how to stand, and perhaps most importantly, how to fall properly. Class levels range from beginner to freestyle, where you'll learn basic jumps, spins, and footwork. Classes are taught by York Ice Arena skating instructors from White Rose Figure Skating Club. No skates? No problem. Skate rental is included in your registration. Or get on the ice for our York Ice Arena hockey programs. York Ice Arena coaches will focus on teaching proper techniques needed for anyone interested in playing hockey. Rental equipment is available for beginning players, both boys and girls. So get on the ice. Learn to skate. Learn to play. Sign up now. Group skating lessons and beginners hockey programs are forming now. Plus, York City residents get a 50% discount. Register today. Go to yorkskate.com and click on program info. York Ice Arena, the coolest place in town.
Two girls teams battling for the top spot in Division III and District 3 AA meet Friday in the high school basketball game of the week presented by Wellspan Sports Medicine as the Lone Catholic visits York Catholic. I'm Ron Ruman. Andy Bria and I have the call as the Squirettes look to sweep the season series after winning on their floor in December. The Irish want to return that favor. Cologne Catholic at Your Catholic, Friday at 7 on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK.
Hi, I'm Red Lion Boys basketball coach Steve Schmale. You're listening to Sports Radio 1350 WOYK, first in York, first in sports.
Hey folks, welcome back. Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOYK. A lot of listener interaction today, which I was thrilled with. I mean, we got some text messages, we got some tweets. Matt got an email asking about his Ohio roots.
I think so, yeah.
Thrilling day.
Props to Ned Baja for sending me an email. I was going to write back to him. He was asking if we're in Ohio. I'm from the northeast area near Cleveland, about 30 miles west.
Matt's a huge Cleveland sports fan.
Oh, very big. I'm really excited about how the Cavs have been playing the last few games.
If the Pistons face the Cavs in the playoffs, I don't know what's going to happen. Because I love Detroit.
Teddy might have a bloody nose.
I might have a heart attack. All right, honestly, folks, I want to touch on a couple newsroom/social media ventures we are doing this weekend in particular as we embark on some high school athletics here coming up. First of all, from a newsroom standpoint, that is our mobile media lab. The GameTimePA crew cruises out to a sporting event. We represent. We want to show people the great work we're trying to do day in and day out. We have some prizes to give out to people who are loyal Game Time followers. Tonight we will be at Biglerville Bermudian Springs Wrestling. That's a 7:30 p.m. start. Tomorrow we will be at William Penn at Central York High School boys basketball. And, of course, the Gettysburg Showcase this weekend in high school hoops as well. That's Saturday. That's going from like 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. I think we're going to be there for a large portion. As fate would have it, we're actually live streaming all these events too. So Biglerville Berm Wrestling will be live streamed at GameTimePA.com tonight. William Penn, Central York Boys Hoops will be live streamed tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. tip. And again, the Gettysburg Showcase. And if you want to watch our show on live stream, you can do that at GameTimePA.com/GameDay. So we're rocking the live streams, man.
Yeah, you're all about it. You are the promo master.
I get really, I mean, you got to see, when I watch the live streams in the office, like I get really animated. That Dallas Town Red Lion basketball.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing some tweets. I think I was getting tweets all over. Ryan Vandersloot of the Dispatch was messaging me about stuff. You were. I mean, it was really. It was a lot of distractions going on that game.
Matt, we did have some breaking news this past week, and we got to kind of move relatively quick here. But Kyle Sprinkle hired a Spring Groves football coach. Maybe we could have touched on it a little bit more during the program. But obviously, it was an interesting hire. He replaces Russ Stoner, who really did, from everything I gathered, a stand-up job there.
Yeah. Well, first thing that's most important, Spring Grove was the first one to have a vacancy. I think it's important that Spring Grove was the first one to make a hire.
5 teams this offseason's have football.
Get somebody in there to get things going. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, maybe wouldn't be surprised if there were some assistants still running things. If not, then they needed somebody in there. But just to get somebody in there at the head of the program to get the ball rolling, to get like just some I don't want to say consistency like it was stability. Get some stability back there after how many months has it been now since November?
You need a head coach.
You need a head coach in place there. So props to Spring Grove for getting that done and hiring one of their own in Kyle Sprinkle.
Absolutely. Former defensive end / tight end who actually recalled his finest play in his career was I believe it was a 90-yard fumble recovery touchdown against Dallas Town. Then he also was a great wrestler at the school as well. And it seemed like Coach Stoner did a good job there.
He did, but it's always fun when you get your own when you're from that school and you get the coach. It's a thrill for them. For those coaches, and you know what, it's gonna you're gonna get 100% from the guy.
Best of luck to him. We look forward to covering him. Guys, thanks for joining us as always. Game Day with GameTimePA here on Sports Radio 1350 WOK. GameTimePA for the latest and greatest in high school sports. See ya.
First in York, first in sports. Your only local sports station. The new Sports Radio 1350, WOYK, York, Pennsylvania.